Welcome to the Secure the Perimeter podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Secure the Perimeter podcast. Today's episode, we're going to talk about what do I do now? We get a lot of questions from young people about what path to take. They get to the point of graduating or they're in their young early 20s and they want to know, what do I do now, Brent? Do I go in the military? Do I go to college? Do I start my own business? And what's the path to entrepreneurship? If you guys go back to past episodes of the Secure the Perimeter podcast, we talk about entrepreneurship. It is not for the faint of heart. If you start your own organization, your own business, unless you have access to tons of resources, it's going to be an uphill fight. With that said, so is the military. And so determining, depending on which branch of military you're considering, I chose the Marine Corps. It's the path I wanted to go. I decided that if I'm going to join the military, I want to be all in, and I want to join an organization that challenges me and takes me around the world. So if you're considering joining, the military, or you're trying to decide whether you want to go to college or you want to start your own business and become an entrepreneur, to me the path is quite simple. What's your key objective? What are you trying to get out of this? What are you trying to accomplish? As a young guy, I didn't plan that out. I didn't have a 5-paragraph order for that. I didn't have a business plan for that. I knew that it was very basic for me. And so I joined the Marine Corps because I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to experience life. With that said, and I think this is worth mentioning, I'm not one of your typical people that, put down the VA and say that the VA, doesn't take care of veterans very well and, we're always getting screwed and all that stuff. Here's my statement about all that with the VA. I have nothing to complain about. The VA, the government has taken care of me since the day that I joined the Marine Corps and stood on those nice yellow footprints in Parris Island, South Carolina, even to now. If I have an issue, I go to the VA doctor, VA hospital, and I get care. But I also want to be clear in saying I didn't join the Marine Corps for the chow. I didn't join the Marine Corps for the benefits. I joined the Marine Corps to experience life. That was the decision I made when I decided which route do I want to take: college, Marine Corps, start my own business. I wanted to join the military and travel the world. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. I didn't have any idea about joining, going to college or starting my own business. Wasn't even in the back of my brain housing group. I was hyper focused on becoming a Marine, and that's what I did. And it is probably the single most best decision I've ever made in my life, besides starting a family and having kids and being married to my wife. Joining the Marine Corps was absolutely the best decision I ever made, but I'm going to say this to all you young guys out there and gals. Do something. Whether you join the military, you go to college, or you start your own business, do something. Because what you don't want to do is sit around idle until you're in your 30s trying to figure it out. Not that it's too late. It's never too late. But I feel like you get behind the curve, okay? So joining the military, you see a lot of veterans that come out and it's hard to transition. And I'm going to tell you why it's hard to transition in the military. Especially for everyone who served between the years of 2001 and 2018-ish. You've probably seen combat. You've probably been to a third world country. And so transitioning I guess the best way to describe, because I get this question a lot in our social media feeds, hey, what's it like to get, to transition out of the Marine Corps and join, go back into the civilian populace? I would say it's arduous. It is really hard. It was very hard for me, and still sometimes it's kind of hard because, when I served in units and everything I did with excellence. It was very hard to transition from the military into the civilian world because the best way to describe it is you go from being a super high performer in everything you do to zero. And it's like taking a NASCAR, race car on the track, going 235 miles an hour, and then going to absolute zero. It's a hard transition. I don't recommend it for everybody, just like I don't recommend starting a business for everyone. It's not for everyone. The military is not for everyone. But college is also not for everyone. But one of those three are for everyone. And what I mean by that is you're a fit for one of those three options. And it's really up to we call it intestinal fortitude in the Marine Corps. It's really up to your internal core of what you can withstand and what you can take. Not everybody can become a Navy SEAL. Not everybody can become Marine Recon. You have to be cut out for it. You'd have to have the intestinal fortitude, the inside of your core, to be able to do those things. Now, there are people out there that have never became a SEAL but had the potential to be a SEAL. They just don't know it. Okay? So make a decision, decide what it is you want. And I always backtrack. I always do reverse planning. It's a tactic we used in the Marine Corps when we would plan out an operation. We would start at the end time, the time that we had to be at the objective, and I would work my way back to initial, rehearsals and gear checks, gear staging, inspections, all that stuff. And so find out what your objective is and work your way back. And then that should ultimately help you make some kind of general decision as to what it is you should do, whether it's military, college, or starting a business. Now, when I'm talking about the military, I'm talking about all branches. Not everybody makes a Navy SEAL. Not everybody makes a Marine. Not everybody makes an Army soldier. You have to decide which branch you want to join because all the branches have their own capabilities, their own benefits. And there's a lot of rhetoric that goes on between the services. Between the services, we always cut up with each other and talk about why the other services aren't as good as our service. But the reality is, if you're serving, man, you're serving humans. You're serving, the United States of America. You are a patriot because you're doing your civic duties, as I call it. But there are jobs for everyone, whether you're a bulk fuel specialist, motor T guy, combat engineer, munitions specialist, artillery, infantry, whatever the case may be. There's jobs for everybody in any branch. Now, whether everybody gets into the whole thing about whether women should be in combat, when women should serve in infantry units, that's a podcast for another time, and I can give you guys my philosophy about that. I think women are very capable, but I feel like there are limitations as Americans and boundaries that we should adhere to. And so again, that's a podcast for another time. Won't get into that now, but I will say that there are jobs for everyone, man, woman, doesn't matter. And I think that if you just are undecided and you need to make a decision, I would say military is probably the best bet if you're not trying to get strapped to debt right out of the gate of life by going to college. I have nothing against college. I think college is great, but you got to be prepared for college financially, and if you're not, then you got to figure out a way to pay for it. So military to me was the best option, and primarily for that reason. Starting a business, it's a whole different animal. It's much like joining Marine Recon. it's much like trying to become a Navy SEAL. It's an arduous uphill battle the entire way, and there's no breaks. It's tough. It's hard, and it requires all of you and then some. Every day, the switch is never off. So it's hard. But anything in life you do is hard, and never let that be the deciding factor of what makes you make your decision. I hear all these horror stories about, SEAL training and buds. Dude, it's tough, and you're going to get sandy, and you're going to be wet the entire time. Going for the recon in doc, you're going to be wet and sandy the entire time and miserable, and you're not going to get any sleep, and they're going to mess with you for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and the switch is never off. But that's what you sign up for. And so let's go back to the comment that I made about the VA and the government. I didn't sign up for the chow. I didn't sign up for the benefits. And as far as I'm concerned, it's what I signed up for. The chow, the people say, oh, the chow's horrible. I'm not there for the chow. Don't care what it tastes like. I'm there because I want to be a patriot. I want to serve my country. I want to travel the world. And I knew that college wasn't an option, so I have nothing to complain about. I have nothing to complain about the way that I've been treated. Is it 5-star service? Absolutely not. But if you're like me, that's not what you sign up for, and it's not the thing I keep my eye on. I kept my eye on the ball, and to me, the ball was the training, the experience, and the knowledge that I obtained while in the Marine Corps. So let this be a lesson to everybody, and I hope, I'm answering the questions for the questions you guys are asking about, Brent, I need some direction, I need some help on what decision to make. To be honest, I can't make that decision for you. No one can make that decision for you. You're going to have to make the decision on your own. But if it's based on monetary reasons, I don't have the money to go to college, I don't have the resources to go to college, I didn't do very well in school, so I don't think college is an option for me, then it to me it comes down to the wire of either starting your own business or joining the military. And if you don't have the money, starting a business is probably not a good idea either, although most people that start a business bootstrap. Unless you're a serial entrepreneur and you're starting a business with the influx of cash and you've got capital to use, if you're not a serial entrepreneur and you don't have access to lots of capital or resources, starting a business is going to be equally hard. I have literally done all three. But it's taken me a lot of time to do all three things. It's not something you can, do all at the same time. So hopefully I've given you guys some insight, and I love and appreciate the questions because it gives me topics to discuss, and it's very relevant, especially if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to decide what path to take. Do I exit my business? Do I join the military? Do I go to college? All relevant things. And so, I could share, lots of stories about the military, but all of the knowledge and experience I get and the tactics that I obtained while I was in the Marine Corps, I use in business, and it's very transferable. Those are very transferable skills, and they're very applicable to running a business or an organization. And most of that comes down to the grit that's required, even in the military, the same in your business. So I appreciate you guys joining the Secure the Perimeter podcast. Keep the questions and comments coming. Love the questions, and definitely want to help you and encourage you as an entrepreneur, or if you're trying to decide to go in the military, I want to encourage you, join the military, or go to college, can give you some insight and direction there as well. As the military and college, I think, would better prepare you as an entrepreneur. So until next time, next episode, we'll have a lot more great content for you guys, and appreciate you guys joining the Secure the Perimeter podcast.